My husband announced our newborn son's name in front of his mistress before I was strong enough to stand. He smiled like he had given me a gift, while she held my baby and whispered a name I had never chosen. In that hospital room, with his mother clapping and my stitches burning under the blanket, I realized Ethan had not only betrayed me as a wife, he had signed away my first decision as a mother. "He is Mason Pierce Bennett," Ethan said. The room went quiet for half a second, then his mother gasped as if she had just heard the most beautiful name in the world. Vanessa Pierce pressed one hand to her chest, her eyes shone under the hospital lights. "Ethan," she whispered, "you did not have to." I looked at the white card tied to the plastic bassinet. Mason Pierce Bennett, not Noah James Walker Bennett. Not the name Ethan and I had chosen 6 months ago at our kitchen table. Not the name printed in the private email he sent me after we spent a whole evening arguing gently over baby names. Not my father's name. Pierce, Vanessa's last name. My mouth went dry for a moment. The room shrank until all I could see was that one word written in thick black marker. Pierce. I had carried our son for 9 months. I had vomited through the first trimester alone while Ethan told me his client meetings were too important to miss. I had assembled the crib with swollen feet because Ethan said he would do it after his next deadline. I had slept on my left side for weeks because the doctor said it helped the baby. Even when my hip burned, I had gone into surgery shaking, asking for my husband, only to be told he had stepped out to make a call, and now his former girlfriend's name sat in the middle of my son's identity. "Mason," I said. Ethan kept smiling, but his mouth tightened at the corners. "It suits him." "Pierce?" I asked. Vanessa lowered her lashes. "Claire, I did not ask him to do that. That was her talent. She could turn every theft into something that had happened to her." Ethan's mother, Marlene, leaned over the bassinet with a wet smile. "It is a strong name, elegant, much better than that double last name you two were considering." I stared at her. That double last name was his parents' names. Marlene waved one hand, her bracelets clinked. "A baby needs simplicity. Bennett is his family name. My name is his family name too." No one answered. That silence told me everything. I was lying in a hospital bed 2 hours after an emergency C-section, my body split open, my blood still staining the thick pad beneath me, and the Bennett family had already decided the child belonged to them. Ethan looked toward the door, as if hoping a nurse might walk in and rescue him from the discomfort of my voice. "Claire, you are exhausted. Let's not turn this into a fight." I almost laughed. A fight. He had brought a fight into the room wrapped in blue ribbon and handed it to me as if I were rude for noticing. I turned my head slowly toward Vanessa. She stood beside the bassinet in a cream coat that looked too expensive and too soft for a hospital. Her hair was curled, her makeup was perfect. She had come dressed for photographs. "Why are you here?" I asked. Her lips parted. Ethan answered for her. "She came to support us." "Us?" His jaw flexed. "Me, she came to support me." Marlene clicked her tongue. "Claire, do not be cruel. Vanessa has been through enough." There it was again, the sentence that had been following me for months. Vanessa has been through enough. Vanessa had been through infertility. Vanessa had been through a broken engagement years before Ethan married me. Vanessa had been through depression, loneliness, career pressure, bad luck, fragile feelings, difficult anniversaries, and whatever else Ethan needed to mention whenever I asked why his phone lit up with her name at midnight. Vanessa had been through enough. So I was supposed to be endlessly patient, endlessly generous, endlessly quiet. I looked at Ethan. "Where is Noah James?" His face hardened. "We talked about this." "No, we talked about Noah James Walker Bennett. You wrote it down, you agreed to it. That was before." "Before what?" He glanced at Vanessa. It was quick, too quick for anyone who did not already know to notice, but I noticed before she asked, before she cried, before she told him it was hard watching another woman have the life she lost. Before he decided my son could become her consolation prize. Marlene folded her arms. "Names can change. You should be grateful Ethan handled the paperwork while you rested." My body went cold. Handled what? Paperwork. Ethan stepped forward. "The hospital worksheet. I did not sign the name form. You were asleep." My fingers tightened around the blanket. "What did you say?" He lowered his voice. "Do not do this right now. What did you sign?" "It is not a legal certificate yet. It is just the hospital process." "I confirmed the name." "You confirmed the name while I was asleep. I am his father." The sentence landed like a slap. Behind him, Vanessa looked down at the baby. The expression on her face was not guilt, it was hunger dressed as tenderness. Then she reached into the bassinet. I pushed myself up too fast. Pain tore through my abdomen. White sparks flashed across my vision. "Do not touch him." Vanessa froze with both hands hovering near my son. Ethan spun toward me. "Claire, do not touch my baby. He is not just your baby," he snapped. I looked at him, really looked at the man who once brought soup to my apartment when I had the flu, at the man who proposed under a maple tree in October because he knew I loved fall, at the man who cried when the pregnancy test turned positive, pressing his forehead to mine and promising he would be there for every step. Then I looked at the man standing in front of me now, same face, different soul. Vanessa whispered, "Maybe I should go," but she did not move. Marlene rushed to comfort her. "No, sweetheart, you did nothing wrong. Sweetheart, I had been married to her son for 4 years. I had spent every Thanksgiving cleaning her kitchen while she corrected the way I sliced apples. I had transferred money when she said the property tax bill surprised her. I had sent flowers for every birthday, every surgery, every one of her headaches that became family emergencies. She had never called me sweetheart." My son stirred in the bassinet and made a tiny sound. The sound brought me back to myself, not my marriage, not Ethan, not Vanessa, my son. I reached for my phone with the hand that did not have the 4 taped to it. Ethan noticed, his eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" Remembering, I took a photo of the name card, Mason Pierce Bennett, then another photo of Vanessa standing by the bassinet, her hand still half raised, Ethan beside her, Marlene with one hand on Vanessa's shoulder. Marlene snapped, "That is unnecessary." "No," I said, "it is very necessary." Ethan stepped closer. "Claire, stop." I looked at him over the top of my phone. "Or what?" He inhaled sharply. "Good, let him hear himself before he answered." He did not. Instead he reached for the baby and lifted him from the bassinet. Every part of me went still. "Put him down," I said. Ethan held our son against his chest. "You need to calm down." Vanessa's eyes filled with tears. "Ethan, maybe this is too much for her." For her, as if I were the intruder, as if my pain were the disruption, as if she had not walked into the room where I bled and decided she had a claim. I held out my arms. "Give me my son." Ethan did not move. "He is my son too," he said again. The door opened before I could answer. A nurse stepped in. She was in her late 40s with tired eyes and a badge that read Leah Moss ON. She paused in the doorway, taking in the room, me sitting up too straight with my face drained white, Ethan holding the baby, Vanessa crying, Marlene glaring, the bassinet card. Leah's expression changed almost imperceptibly. "Everything okay in here?" she asked. I did not look away from Ethan. "I want my baby back." Leah stepped forward at once. "Dad, let's place the baby back with Mom." Ethan forced a laugh. "She is emotional." Leah did not smile. "Mom asked for the baby." The word Mom went through me like a hand holding me up. Ethan looked trapped for a second. I thought he would refuse in front of a witness. Then he handed my son to Leah. Leah placed him against my chest. The second his warm weight returned to me, the room changed, not outside, inside me. Something locked, something I had mistaken for love finally moved aside, and behind it stood a mother with a clear view. I looked down at my son, his tiny mouth opened and closed, his cheek pressed against me. He did not know his name had been stolen before he could lift his head. I knew, and that was enough. Ethan cleared his throat. "Claire, we will talk when you are rested." I reached down with my right hand and touched my wedding ring. My fingers were swollen. It hurt to twist it, the skin dragged, but I kept going. Ethan saw. "Do not be dramatic," he said. I pulled the ring over my knuckle and placed it on the rolling hospital table beside a plastic cup of melting ice. The sound it made was small. Everyone heard it. I looked at Ethan. "It was dramatic when you gave our son to your mistress in writing." I said, "This is just me catching up." Vanessa let out a soft sob. Marlene gasped my name. Ethan's face went dark. Leah moved closer to my bed without saying a word. That too, I remembered later. People would ask when I decided to leave. They would expect me to say it happened in court, or when I saw the messages, or when I found the nursery receipt, but the truth was simpler. I decided to leave when my husband stood in front of me holding our newborn son and waited to see whether I was too weak to fight for him. I was weak, I was bleeding, I was in pain, but I was not helpless. After they left, the room seemed to expand and collapse at the same time. The flowers remained, the balloons remained. The white card remained tied to the bassinet until I asked Leah to remove it and place it in a plastic patient belongings bag. She did not ask why that mattered. People who have lived through humiliation know how often the world asks victims to explain the obvious. Leah simply took the card down, slipped it into the bag and handed it to me. "Do you want me to limit visitors?" she asked. Ethan was still in the room near the window. His parents had gone to get dinner. Vanessa had left after Ethan walked her to the elevator, but not before touching his wrist and whispering, "Please do not fight because of me." Because of me, that phrase followed him back into the room like perfume. I kept my son against my chest. Yes. I said, I want visitors limited. Ethan turned from the window. No, she does not. Leah looked at me, not him, I repeated. Yes, I do. Ethan laughed once without humor. This is insane. Leah's tone stayed level. The patient may limit visitors. I am her husband, and she is the patient. The sentence landed cleanly. Ethan stared at Leah as if she had insulted him. I did not smile, but inside me some small part stood straighter. I need the birth registration paperwork, I said. Ethan's eyes sharpened. Claire, Leah nodded. I can contact the registrar. Ethan stepped forward. That is not necessary, we already completed the worksheet. I did not complete anything. I said, you were tired. I was asleep. His jaw worked. You asked me to handle paperwork. I asked you to give them insurance cards. It was part of the same packet. No, Ethan, a birth name is not an insurance card. Leah looked between us. Mrs. Bennett, are you saying you did not consent to the name submitted on the worksheet? Yes, Ethan snapped. She is on medication. Leah looked at the four-pole, then at me. Are you alert enough to understand what I am asking? Yes, I said. I understand. I did not sign or approve the name Mason Pierce Bennett. I want the submission frozen until I review it. Ethan dragged a hand over his face. You are going to make us look ridiculous. I looked at him. Us. He looked away first. Leah left to call the registrar. Ethan waited until the door closed, then walked to the foot of my bed. His voice dropped. Do not start a legal mess over this. I adjusted the blanket over Noah's back. You started it when you used my name. I did not forge anything. What do you call signing for someone who is asleep? I clicked confirm, that is all. The words were so casual that for a second I could not breathe. He had not even built a full lie. He had not thought he needed one. He had clicked confirm as if my consent were a pop-up window. I reached for my phone again. Ethan's eyes followed my hand. Who are you texting? No one yet. Yet. You should leave. He stared at me. This is my son's room too. This is my hospital room. He leaned over the foot of the bed. Claire, listen to me carefully. If you turn this into a war, you will regret it. Courts do not like mothers who use babies as weapons. There it was. The threat under the concern, the husband under the mask. I looked at him for a long moment, then I pressed the call button. He blinked. What are you doing? Creating a witness. His face changed. Leah returned with another woman a few minutes later. The woman wore silver glasses and carried a tablet. Her badge read Evelyn Bell, birth records. Mrs. Bennett. She asked. Yes, I understand there is a concern regarding the birth worksheet. Ethan stepped closer. It is a misunderstanding. Ms. Bell looked at him politely. I need to speak with the patient. I am the father, and we can speak with you after I clarify the patient's concern. He looked ready to argue, but Leah stayed by the door. That made him stop. Ms. Bell turned to me. Do you feel comfortable speaking with your husband present? No, I said. The word surprised even me. It came out clean, without apology. Ethan stared at me. Ms. Bell said, Sir, please wait outside. I am not leaving my wife alone with hospital staff while she is upset. Leah picked up the wall phone. Security can assist if needed. Ethan's face flushed. He pointed at me, then lowered his hand as if remembering how it would look. This is not over, he said. No, I said. It is just finally written down. He left. When the door closed behind him, my body started shaking. Leah noticed. Do you need pain medication? I need the file. Ms. Bell pulled up the worksheet. The name currently entered is Mason Pierce Bennett. She said. Even hearing it a second time made my throat close. What time was it submitted? I asked. She checked. For 14 p.m. At 4:14 I had been under a heavy wave of pain medication. I remembered Leah adjusting the blanket. I remembered telling her the ceiling looked too bright. Then I remembered nothing until Ethan returned with Vanessa. I was asleep, I said. Leah nodded. Her medication was administered shortly before that. Ms. Bell's eyes moved to Leah, then back to the tablet. What signature is attached? I asked. She turned the screen. My name appeared in a slanted digital scribble. Claire Walker Bennett. Not my handwriting, not even close. My real signature had a long W in Walker, a habit I had picked up from my father. This one looked like someone dragging a finger across glass while impatient. That is not mine, I said. Ms. Bell's face became serious. The worksheet has not yet been sent to the state office. It is queued for morning submission. If you dispute it, we can place a hold pending review. I dispute it. I can give you a written statement form. Yes. Leah brought a tray so I could write against it. My hand trembled as I held the pen. Pain made my fingers clumsy. My abdomen pulled every time I leaned forward. Noah slept against my chest, his tiny body rising and falling under my chin. I wrote slowly, I, Claire Walker Bennett, dispute the birth registration worksheet submitted under my name. I did not review, approve, or sign the selected name Mason Pierce Bennett. At the time of the electronic signature, I was recovering from surgery and under medication. I request an immediate hold on submission pending correction. At the bottom I signed my real signature, Claire Walker Bennett. The W rose like my father had taught me. MS Bell took the form. I will file this immediately. Can anyone change it again? Not without review now. I nodded. Leah asked, would you like Mr. Bennett allowed back in? No. Again the word came easier. No visitors except hospital staff unless I approve them. Leah nodded. I will update the chart. When Ethan found out he could not return, he texted me, you are humiliating me in front of strangers. I looked at the message, then I saved a screenshot. He sent another, you are acting like I hurt the baby. I gave him a name, that is all. Another screenshot. A third message came, Vanessa is devastated. She thinks you hate her because she cannot have children. I stared at the phone until the letters blurred. Then I typed one sentence, you used my signature while I was unconscious. I did not send it, I deleted it. Nora Ellis had once told me, never explain yourself to someone who is collecting your words to use against you. Back then I thought she was cynical. Now I opened my contacts and found her name. 3 months earlier I had met Nora in a coffee shop after finding a message on Ethan's phone. Vanessa, sometimes I think if things had gone differently, that baby would have been ours. Ethan, do not say that, it hurts too much. I had been 5 months pregnant. I had not slept that night. Nora had listened and said, you may not be ready to leave. That is your choice, but if you stay, keep records quietly, safely, without warning him. I had kept records, not enough I thought then, but enough to begin. I typed with one hand. He used my electronic signature while I was unconscious and gave our son Vanessa's last name as a middle name. He also may have added her to hospital paperwork. I am still admitted. I need help now. Nora replied in 4 minutes. Do not argue, do not sign anything. Ask the hospital to freeze all filings. Preserve every message. I am coming. I read it twice, then I looked down at my son. Your name is Noah, I whispered. I do not care what he wrote. Noah made a small sound in his sleep as if answering outside my room. Ethan knocked once. Claire, he called through the door. Open the door. Leah's voice answered from the hallway. Sir, you need to step away from the patient's room. He lowered his voice, but I still heard him. She is my wife, Leah said. She asked for privacy. A pause, then his footsteps retreated. I sat in the dim room, holding my son with my wedding ring still on the table and the disputed name card sealed in a plastic bag. For the first time all day, I understood the shape of the fight. Ethan thought this was about a name. Vanessa thought this was about her grief. Marlene thought this was about family pride. But for me it had become very simple. Someone had used my weakness as an opening. I was going to close it. Nora arrived before Ethan's apology did. That told me everything. She came into the hospital room wearing a navy coat, low heels, and the focused expression of someone who did not confuse emotion with weakness. Her hair was pulled back. She carried a leather folder and a phone charger. First, she said, placing the charger on my table, you will need this more than sympathy. I almost cried, not because the charger was kind, because it was practical. Everyone else had treated me like a storm. Nora treated me like a person inside a storm who still needed working tools. She washed her hands, looked at Noah in the bassinet and softened for half a second. He is beautiful, she said. His name is Noah James, I said. Then we will call him Noah James. No hesitation, no question, no compromise. I swallowed. Nora sat down and opened her folder. Tell me everything in order. So I did. I told her Ethan had missed the first hour after surgery. I told her Vanessa arrived with him. I told her about the name card, the announcement, the signature, the message, the visitor conflict, and the hold on the birth worksheet. Nora wrote without interrupting. When I finished, she asked, do you have proof of the agreed name? I opened my email. Subject, baby name final. Ethan had written it after dinner one night when I was 6 months pregnant and emotional over my father's old baseball cap. Noah James Walker Bennett works for me. Your dad would have loved it. I mean that. The email looked like a relic from a dead civilization. Nora read it and nodded. Good, forward it to me. I did. Any text messages involving Vanessa? I hesitated. There is a particular shame in admitting you saved evidence before you were ready to use it. It feels like confessing you saw the cliff and kept walking, but Nora only waited. I opened the hidden album on my phone, screenshots, some were small things. Vanessa sending Ethan a picture of a baby blanket and writing, "This would look sweet in a nursery." Ethan replying, "Claire likes green, but I like your taste better." Some were worse. Vanessa, "Does she know I still think about what our baby would have looked like?" Ethan, "Please do not do this tonight." Vanessa, "You are having a son with her. Do you know what that does to me?" Ethan, "I know. I wish I could make it easier." Vanessa, "Let me be part of something, just one part." Ethan, "I will." Nora's pen stopped. "There," she said, "that is motive." I stared at the screen. Motive again, a clean word for a filthy thing. Before I could answer, the door opened. Vanessa stepped in. She held a paper gift bag with tissue spilling out of the top. Ethan was behind her, looking irritated and tired. Marlene followed them, carrying a blue balloon that said "Welcome Mason." Nora stood. Vanessa froze when she saw her. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "Who is this?" "My attorney," I said. The word entered the room and changed the air. Marlene scoffed. "Attorney, for heaven's sake, Claire." Vanessa looked at the floor. "I can come back later." "You should not come back at all," Nora said. Her voice was calm, almost pleasant. Ethan stepped forward. "Vanessa is here because I invited her." Nora looked at him. "This is Claire's hospital room. Claire has limited visitors. I am the father. You are not the patient." Marlene's face reddened. "This is a family matter." Nora turned to her. "Then Ms. Pierce should leave." Vanessa's lips trembled. "I did not mean to cause trouble." I looked at the gift bag in her hand. "What is that?" She glanced at Ethan again, always at Ethan. "A blanket," she said softly. "For Mason." Nora's head turned toward me. I felt all the pain in my body sharpen into one clean point. "His name is Noah," I said. Vanessa closed her eyes as if I had struck her. Ethan snapped, "Stop weaponizing the name." I laughed. It came out raw. "You gave him her last name. It was a middle name. Then give your next mistake your middle name, not my son." Marlene gasped. "How dare you speak like that?" Nora lifted one hand. "Mrs. Bennett is recovering from major surgery. I am going to ask everyone not approved for visitation to leave." Ethan ignored her and walked to the bassinet. Noah had just begun to stir. His hands opened and closed against the blanket. Ethan reached down. I said, "Do not pick him up." He stopped. The look he gave me was not shocked, it was offended, as if I had denied him something he owned. "He is my son, and I am asking you not to pick him up while you are here with the woman you tried to add to his life without my consent." Vanessa whispered, "I never asked to be added." Nora looked at her. "Were you aware your name appeared in hospital-related caregiving information?" Vanessa's mouth closed. Ethan turned. "Do not answer that." Nora smiled faintly. "That sounds like yes." Leah appeared in the doorway as if summoned by tension. "Is everything all right?" "No," I said. "I want them to leave." Ethan's face darkened. "Claire, think carefully." Nora stepped between him and the bed. That sounded like a threat. It was not. "Good, then leave." For a second he did not move. Then Noah began to cry. The sound cut through the room. Vanessa instinctively stepped toward the bassinet. I pushed myself upright, pain tearing through my middle. "No." Everyone froze. Leah moved quickly. She lifted Noah and placed him in my arms. The second he touched me, he quieted. Vanessa stared at him with naked longing. I saw it then, not just sadness, not just envy, acclaim. She wanted him because he was Ethan's. She wanted him because he was mine. She wanted him because life had denied her something, and Ethan had taught her to believe I should pay the debt. Marlene touched Vanessa's shoulder. "Come on, sweetheart." Vanessa let Ethan guide her out at the doorway. She turned back. "I hope one day you understand I loved him too." I looked down at Noah. "No," I said. "You loved the idea of taking him." Her face crumpled. Ethan pulled her into the hall. Marlene followed, glaring at me as if I had ruined the family by objecting to its theft. When the door closed, the room went still. Leah exhaled. "I am documenting that." Nora looked at her. "Please document all of it." Leah nodded. I kissed Noah's head. Nora sat back down. "We need to move quickly. If the birth certificate is not filed yet, we can preserve the name dispute. We also need to revoke any access connected to Vanessa." "How do we do that?" "Paper by paper." That became the first lesson of my new life. People can betray you in a single sentence. You take your life back line by line. The hospital became two places at once. By day it was the place where nurses checked my blood pressure, pressed on my abdomen, asked about pain levels, and reminded me to feed Noah every 2 to 3 hours. By night, It became a records office, a law office, and a battlefield with fluorescent lights. Nora stayed late. Leah brought extra forms. Ms. Bell from birth records returned with a printed copy of the disputed worksheet and a formal hold confirmation. I learned more about hospital paperwork in one night than I had ever wanted to know. The birth worksheet had not yet gone to the state office. That meant Ethan's chosen name was not final. That one fact became the first open door. Nora tapped the paper. Once this reaches the state system, correction becomes slower, still possible but harder. The hold matters. I looked at the name again, Mason Pierce Bennett. The handwriting on the physical card had been Ethan's. The digital worksheet had been submitted under my name. The emergency contact addendum listed Ethan as father, me as mother, Marlene as secondary family contact, and Vanessa Pierce as emergency caregiver. Emergency caregiver. I pointed to the line. How could he add her? Ms. Bell looked uncomfortable. Some family information fields are entered from intake notes and spouse-provided information. They are not the same as legal custody documents, but they can affect access and communication if not corrected. So if I had not checked, Nora answered, Vanessa could have been treated as someone with limited family-related access, not full parental rights, but enough to create confusion. Confusion. I was starting to hate clean words. Ethan had built confusion because confusion benefits the person crossing the line. I signed a revocation of unauthorized contacts. I signed a request to remove Vanessa Pierce from all hospital communication. I signed a corrected temporary name request for Noah James Walker. When I paused over the last name, Nora noticed. You can use Walker Bennett if you want, she said. That was the original agreement. I looked at my son sleeping in the clear bassinet. Walker Bennett had once felt fair, a bridge between two families, but Ethan had burned the bridge and asked me why I smelled smoke. Walker, I said. Nora nodded once. Walker it is. Ms. Bell entered the temporary correction into the hospital system at 1:17 a.m. My son became Noah James Walker in his medical record. No balloons, no applause, no mistress crying prettily in the corner, just a tired records clerk, a nurse witness, my attorney, and me holding a pen with a shaking hand. It was the most sacred naming ceremony I could have imagined. After Ms. Bell left, Nora asked, Do you have somewhere safe to go after discharge? I almost said home, then I realized I no longer had one. The house Ethan and I shared had a nursery with green curtains and framed animal prints. My maternity clothes hung in the closet. The freezer was full of meals I had cooked before surgery because I knew I would be tired. The rocking chair sat by the window where I had imagined feeding Noah at sunrise, but Ethan had keys, Marlene had keys, and for all I knew Vanessa had been invited to imagine herself there too. My father's apartment, I said. Nora looked up. You own it? Yes, he left it to me. It is small, but it is in my name only. Mortgage, paid off, utilities, still active. I could never bring myself to close it. For the first time something like relief crossed Nora's face. Good, very good, I had kept that apartment out of grief. Now grief had become shelter. At 2:05 a.m. while Noah slept after a feeding, Ethan sent a text. You cannot keep everyone out forever. I screenshot it. Another came. Mom is crying. Vanessa is sick over this. Are you proud? Screenshot. Then a third message appeared. By tomorrow, his name will prove I chose you. That meant something to her. Why can you not let anyone else have a little happiness? I stared at it. The room went very still. Nora, who had been drafting something beside me, looked up. Claire. I turned the phone toward her. She read the message, then she read it again. Her expression sharpened. He sent that to the wrong person. She said, Yes, do not respond. I know, send it to me. I did. My hands shook afterward, not because I was surprised by the content I already knew, but seeing it written stripped away his last excuse. He had chosen her, not accidentally, not under pressure, not because he misunderstood paperwork. He had used our son's name to prove something to another woman. I looked down at Noah. His eyelashes were dark against his cheeks. What happens now? I asked. Nora's voice softened by 1 degree. Now we prepare for him to realize you are serious. And then he will panic. She was right. At 3:12 a.m. Ethan tried to come back to the room. Leah stopped him. I heard his voice in the hall, low and furious. My wife is in there with a lawyer, and you are telling me I cannot see her. Leah said. She has requested no visitors. She is not thinking clearly. She is alert and oriented. She just had surgery. Yes, which is why you need to lower your voice. I closed my eyes. Once Ethan's anger would have made me rush to smooth things over. I would have apologized to the nurse for him. I would have explained he was stressed. I would have asked him to come in so he did not feel excluded that night. I let him be excluded. It felt like learning a new language. At 4:30 a.m. my friend June arrived with a car seat, a duffel bag and a face that looked ready to commit crimes on my behalf. She stopped in the doorway when she saw me. "Oh honey." I lifted one finger. "No crying." Her mouth tightened. She nodded. "No crying." Then she saw Noah. Her whole face changed. "He looks like your dad," she whispered. That almost undid me. "My dad would have loved him," I said. June came to the bed and touched my hair. "Your dad would have hated Ethan." I laughed once. It hurt my incision. "Probably." "No, definitely." She looked at Nora. "Tell me what to carry." I realized then that help feels different when it does not ask you to shrink. June did not ask if I was sure. Nora did not ask if I wanted to give Ethan one more chance. Leah did not ask why I was making things difficult. They looked at what had happened and treated my reaction as reasonable. That alone felt like rescue, not because they saved me, because they reminded me I was allowed to save myself. I left the hospital at dawn, not in secret, not in panic, not like a woman stealing away with something that did not belong to her. I left with discharge papers, a pediatric clearance, a corrected hospital name record, a visitor restriction report, a pending birth registration hold, a lawyer beside me, and my son strapped safely into a car seat June had installed twice because she did not trust the first installation. The distinction mattered. Later, Ethan would call it kidnapping, Marlene would call it cruelty, Vanessa would call it proof that I hated her more than I loved my child, but the paperwork told a different story. I was the mother. I had been medically cleared. No custody order existed. Noah had been discharged into my care. Ethan had been informed by counsel that communication would go through legal channels. Facts do not always stop lies, but they give you ground to stand on when lies arrive. Leah helped me into the wheelchair because hospital rules required it. I hated the weakness of sitting while others moved around me. Then Noah made a soft sound from his carrier and I stopped caring how I looked. I was alive, he was safe, that was enough. June carried the duffel bag, Nora carried the legal folder. I carried the plastic bag with the Mason Pierce name card inside. I did not know why I wanted it with me. Maybe because it was evidence, maybe because it was proof, maybe because one day, when I doubted whether it had truly been that bad, I would need to see the ugly thing in writing. As we moved down the hallway, we passed the waiting area where Vanessa had stood the day before, empty chairs, a vending machine humming, a janitor changing a trash bag, morning light beginning to press against the windows. Nothing about the hallway announced that my marriage had ended there. The world is strange that way. Your life can split in two while someone nearby buys a soda. Outside, cold air touched my face. It smelled like wet pavement and hospital exhaust. June pulled her old Subaru to the curb. Nora checked the car seat base, then she handed me the folder. "Keep this within reach," she said. "If Ethan or anyone in his family shows up, you do not argue, you call police if needed, then call me. Will police understand? They understand paperwork better than feelings. Show the discharge papers, the hospital dispute and my emergency filing receipt." I nodded. My phone buzzed. "Ethan," I did not answer. It buzzed again, then again. Nora held out her hand. "May I?" I gave her the phone. She changed his calls to silence but left texts enabled. "We want written communication," she said. "Ethan's message arrived before." She handed it back. "Where are you?" "Another. The nurse said you left." "What the hell does that mean?" "Another. Where is Mason?" I stared at that one. Nora watched my face. "Do not answer emotionally." "I know. Do you want me to draft?" "No." I took the phone and typed. "Noah was legally discharged into my care. Do not contact me by phone. All communication regarding the child must go through Nora Ellis or the court-approved channel when established." I showed it to Nora. She nodded. "I sent it." Ethan replied almost instantly. "His name is Mason." I looked at Noah in his carrier. His little hat had slipped over one eyebrow. His mouth was open. I did not answer Ethan. Instead, I opened my contacts and changed his name from Ethan Husband to Ethan Bennett. Then I opened our shared location app and turned mine off. Then I opened the banking app. 4 years, I had been the quiet engine behind our home. Ethan earned more some months, less others. His consulting work came in waves. I had the steady paycheck, the benefits, the retirement deductions, the habit of paying before being asked. I transferred money into the joint account every month. Mortgage overflow, utilities, groceries, Marlene's short-term help, Ethan's client expenses. 1,000 small leaks I had called marriage. I stopped the scheduled transfer. The app asked if I was sure. Yes, for once. An app respected consent better than my husband had. I changed my personal account password, my email password, my hospital portal password, the baby registry password. Then I saw it, under registry collaborators, Claire Bennett, Ethan Bennett, Vanessa Pierce. My entire body went cold. The registry had been private, it had our address, due date, baby items, notes about what we had already purchased. I clicked her name, added by Ethan Bennett, date 5 weeks earlier, 5 weeks. While I was washing tiny onuses and writing thank you cards, Vanessa had been inside the digital map of our baby's life. I took a screenshot, then I removed her. When we reached my father's apartment, the sky had turned pale. The building was old brick, 3 stories, with a front door that stuck in winter. My father had bought the apartment before the neighborhood became expensive. He used to joke that it was his one lucky decision besides having me. June helped me up the stairs slowly. Every step pulled at my incision. Nora carried Noah because I needed both hands on the railing. At the door I paused. I had not slept here since Dad died. The key turned with a familiar scrape. Inside, the apartment smelled faintly of dust, wood polish, and cedar. The furniture was exactly where I had left it. Brown couch, round kitchen table, bookshelves built by my father's hands, a framed photo of us at Coney Island when I was 8, both sunburned and laughing. June set down the bags. Nora placed Noah's carrier on the table. I stood in the doorway, suddenly unable to move. I had thought coming here would feel like defeat. Instead, it felt like someone had left a light on for me across years of grief. I walked to Noah and unbuckled him. My body protested, but I lifted him anyway. Then I stood under my father's photo. "This is your grandfather," I whispered. "His name was James Walker. He would have called you brave before you could even hold your head up." Noah yawned. June turned away quickly, pretending to inspect the kitchen. Nora looked at her phone. "Ethan has contacted my office 6 times already. Yes, he is using words like unstable, abduction, and postpartum episode." I closed my eyes. Of course he was. He had taken my consent. Now he would take my sanity if I let him. Nora's voice stayed even. "That is why we document. Your discharge was lawful. Your medical notes show alertness. The hospital placed the record hold based on your statement and timing. Leah's notes support your account. Stay calm, feed the baby, rest when you can." Rest, the word almost seemed cruel. But after Nora left to file the emergency petition and June made toast I could barely swallow and Noah fell asleep in the bassinet my father had once built for a neighbor's child, I sat on the couch and looked at my phone. Ethan had texted again. "I am at the hospital. The room is empty. Where is my son?" I did not answer. Another message came. "Claire, this is not you." I looked around my father's apartment, at the dust, at the old books, at the legal folder on the table, at my son sleeping under the name I had restored before sunrise. Then I whispered to the quiet room, "No, Ethan, this is exactly me." Ethan discovered the empty hospital room with the Mason balloon in his hand. I know because Leah documented it in the incident report. That report became one of my favorite pieces of paper, not because it was dramatic, but because it was precise. At approximately 6:27 a.m. Mr. Ethan Bennett arrived at the maternity desk carrying a balloon arrangement with the name Mason printed on one balloon. Mr. Bennett requested access to patient Claire Walker Bennett's room. Staff informed him the patient and infant had been discharged. Mr. Bennett became visibly agitated and demanded location information. Staff declined to provide private discharge details. Mr. Bennett stated the patient was unstable and had taken his son. Security was notified but not required to remove him as Mr. Bennett left after approximately 11 minutes. 11 minutes. That was how long Ethan stood in the aftermath of his own choices before deciding I was unstable, not hurt, not betrayed, not a mother acting to protect her child. Unstable. It would have wounded me more if it had surprised me. By 8:00 a.m. my phone was full. "Ethan, pick up. Ethan, where are you? Ethan, my mother is hysterical. Ethan, Vanessa has not stopped crying. Ethan, you are scaring everyone. Ethan, if you hurt him because you are angry at me, I will never forgive you." That last one made me sit perfectly still. Noah was asleep in the portable bassinet beside the couch. June was in the kitchen, opening cabinets and muttering about the lack of groceries. My body hurt with the deep, dull ache of surgery and milk coming in, and Ethan had put in writing that I might hurt my child. I took a screenshot. Then I typed slowly and carefully, "Do not accuse me of harming my child again. Noah is safe. Further communication must go through counsel." I sent it to Nora first. She replied, "Good, send." I sent it. Ethan responded, "His name is Mason. Stop doing this." I saved it. June came in with tea. Do you want me to take the phone? No, I said, I need to see it. Why? So I do not forget. She sat across from me. You are allowed to forget some of it. No, not yet. Because that was the danger. I knew myself. I knew. The woman I had been in marriage. Give me 3 quiet days, 1 decent apology, 1 memory of Ethan rubbing my feet during the 2nd trimester, and I could soften the edges of what he had done. I could start naming cruelty as confusion. I could begin wondering whether I had overreacted. So I kept looking. Ethan kept showing me. At 9:15 Marlene called from her own number. I let it go to voicemail. Her voice filled the room on speaker. Claire, this is shameful. A child needs his father. A child needs his family name. You are punishing everyone because Ethan tried to do something kind for a woman who has suffered more than you can imagine. Bring Mason home before this becomes unforgivable. I saved it. Folder. Marlene pressure. Then Vanessa texted from a number I had never saved. Claire, I know you are angry, but please do not make this about me. Ethan wanted me there because he knew this birth would be hard for me too. I never wanted to replace you. I stared at the words. This birth would be hard for me too. I had been cut open. She had worn cream. I saved the message, then blocked the number. At noon, she made the mistake that changed everything. June saw it first. Oh my God, she said from the kitchen table. I looked up from trying to feed Noah. He was fussing, hungry and impatient, and I was struggling to get him latched. My shirt was damp, my incision throbbed. I had not slept longer than 20 minutes. What? June turned her phone toward me. Vanessa's social media page. A photograph filled the screen. Vanessa stood in the hospital hallway holding my son. Her cheek was pressed close to his head. The white blanket covered most of his face, but he was recognizable to me because every mother knows the shape of her own baby even through cloth. The caption read, "Sometimes love gives you a piece of the life you thought you lost. Welcome, sweet Mason Pierce, you are already so loved." Below it, Marlene had commented with 3 blue hearts. Ethan had written, "He is lucky to have you in his life." For a moment, the apartment disappeared. There was only the photograph. Her hand on his back, her cheek near his head, her name in his caption, her fantasy dressed up as love for everyone to applaud. June said my name, but I could not answer. I placed Noah carefully in the bassinet. Then I went to the bathroom and threw up into the sink, not from disgust alone, from rage, from pain, from the physical violence of being erased while still bleeding. When I came back, June had already taken screenshots. I got the post, the caption, the comments, the timestamp and her profile. I nodded. Send them to Nora. Already did. I looked at my friend. She lifted her chin. I am useful in a crisis. I almost cried. Nora called 9 minutes later. I have the screenshots. She said, "Do not comment, do not message Vanessa, do not post anything." I will not. This supports emergency restrictions. Public posting of a newborn without parental consent, use of disputed name, evidence of third-party claim. I am filing today. She called him a piece of the life she lost. I saw, that is my son. I know. Nora's voice softened. Claire, listen to me. The court will care that you acted to protect him while they acted to display him. That sentence steadied me. Protect versus display. Yes, that was the difference. By evening the post was gone. Too late. We had printed it. June and I sat at my father's kitchen table while Noah slept in short bursts. We made folders with sticky notes, name agreement, disputed signature, Vanessa access, hospital witness, social media, family pressure, financial records. That last folder began as an accident. June asked, "Do you think he bought the balloon?" I opened the joint account to check. The balloon charge was there, so were other charges. Pierce Consulting, V. Pierce Rent Support, Little Nest Baby Boutique, a furniture store receipt. June leaned over my shoulder. Click that. I clicked. White crib, cream glider chair, changing table, blue knit blanket, delivery address, Vanessa Pierce's apartment, order date, 5 weeks before Noah's birth. The room went quiet. June whispered, "Claire." I kept scrolling. Another receipt, newborn bottles, a baby monitor, a framed print that said "You are so loved." I sat back. The name was not an impulsive gesture. The hospital was not the start. Ethan had been preparing a place for Vanessa to play mother with my child that night. After Noah finally fell asleep on my chest, I opened Ethan's newest email. Subject, "Stop before you destroy us." Claire, you are turning one bad decision into a war. Vanessa had no bad intentions. She has been emotionally connected to this pregnancy because I leaned on her when you shut me out. If you had made space for what I was going through, none of this would have happened. I read the last sentence 3 times. If you had made space. There it was, the whole marriage in one line. His betrayal was my failure to accommodate it. I forwarded the email to Nora, then I opened a blank note and typed my first private sentence since leaving the hospital. I will not raise my son in a house where love means surrendering pieces of yourself until someone else feels whole. I saved it, then I looked down at Noah. His name, his real name, was written on the hospital bracelet around his ankle. Noah James Walker. I touched the tiny band with one finger. Ethan had thought he could make me disappear from my own child's story. He had forgotten I knew how to read documents. The first week after Noah's birth did not feel like 1 week. It felt like one long day broken by feedings, legal calls, pain medication, and messages from people who had suddenly discovered opinions about motherhood. Ethan's sister Rachel sent one cautious text. Mom says you left the hospital without telling anyone. Is Noah okay? I looked at the message for a long time before answering. Noah is safe. I left legally after discharge. Ethan used my signature without consent and attempted to give Noah Vanessa's last name as a middle name. I am handling this through an attorney. Rachel did not reply for 20 minutes. Then I did not know that, of course. She did not. Marlene had a talent for building a family story before facts arrived. Later that day, Rachel wrote again, "Can I help? I did not trust the offer fully, not yet. But I wrote, do not repeat anything to your mother, that would help." She replied, "I understand." That was the first crack in the Bennett wall. Nora's office became my second shelter. June drove because I was not supposed to. I sat in the back with Noah, one hand on his carrier, the legal folder beside me. The city moved outside the car. Windows like another life. People carried coffee, walked dogs, waited at crosswalks, laughed into phones. I wanted to scream at them. Do you know a woman can give birth on Monday and fight for legal control of her child by Friday? But everyone already knows their own version of that sentence. Nora met us at reception and took one look at me. "You look like you need to sit down. I need a new body." "That too, sit first." Her conference room had a large table, 3 chairs, and a view of another office building. It smelled like coffee and paper. Nora spread the evidence in front of us. "We are building a sequence," she said. "Courts like sequences, they show intention." She arranged the documents first, the agreed name email second, the message history between Ethan and Vanessa about being part of the baby's life third, the hospital worksheet with the disputed signature fourth, the medication record showing I had been under post-surgical medication fifth, Leah's note that I asked for the baby back and objected to Vanessa's presence sixth, the emergency caregiver entry seventh, the social media post eighth, the baby furniture receipts ninth, Ethan's email blaming me. Nora tapped the last one. "This helps show he is still rationalizing the behavior." June snorted. "Can we make a folder labeled Audacity?" Nora did not smile, but her eyes warmed. "Informally, yes." I looked at all the papers. "Is it enough? For emergency temporary orders it is strong. For final custody it starts the record, but we have to be careful. He is the father. Courts do not remove parental access because a husband is a terrible husband. I know. So we focus on decision-making, boundaries, third-party interference, and consent, not the affair. The affair matters only where it touches parenting. Here, it touches everything. That was the part that made my story different from a simple betrayal. If Ethan had cheated, it would have broken me, but he had gone further. He had tried to write Vanessa into our son's life before our son could even open his eyes. Nora slid a document toward me. Emergency petition. Read before signing. I read every word. Temporary primary physical custody. No unsupervised access until hearing. No contact between Vanessa Pierce and the minor child. No public posting of the child. All communication through counsel. Preservation of the child's name as Noah James Walker pending court review. My eyes stopped there. Noah James Walker. There it was in legal language, not a whisper in a hospital room, not a mother's private correction, a request to the court. I signed. Nora notarized. June fed Noah a bottle while I cried silently into a tissue because my body had betrayed me and leaked through my shirt during a custody filing. No one made me feel ashamed. That afternoon, Ethan received the emergency motion. I knew because my phone stayed quiet for almost 2 hours. Then he emailed subject, "What are you doing, Claire? You filed court papers against me. I am your husband. I have never been a danger to my son. You are letting a lawyer poison you because you are jealous of Vanessa. This is cruel and unnecessary. I want to see my child, Ethan." I forwarded it to Nora. Then I saw another email arrive from Vanessa. Subject, "Please read." I should not have posted the photo. I was emotional. I thought Ethan had permission. He told me you were overwhelmed and that he was handling everything. I never wanted to hurt the baby. I noticed what she did not say. She did not say she was sorry for calling him Mason. She did not say she was sorry for accepting her surname in his name. She did not say she was sorry for entering my hospital room. She was sorry the photo became evidence. I forwarded that too. That evening, Marlene appeared at my father's apartment. The knock was hard enough to wake Noah. June stood up immediately. Absolutely not. I motioned for her to stay back. I did not open the door. Marlene, I said through it, you need to leave. Open this door. No, you cannot hide my grandson from me. I am recovering from surgery. Leave. Her voice sharpened. You were nothing when Ethan married you. Do not forget that. A library girl with a dead father and an apartment full of dust. We welcomed you. I opened the recording app. Please repeat that. I said silence. Then, are you recording me? Yes, you manipulative little thing. Leave or I call the police. You would call police on your child's grandmother. I would call police on anyone pounding on my door while my newborn sleeps. June stood behind me, holding her own phone up, recording video of the locked door. Marlene said, you are going to regret humiliating this family. No, I said, I regret joining it. Her footsteps retreated. I saved the recording. June whispered, that was incredible. My knees were shaking. No, I said, that was overdue. Later that night, after Noah's 2 a.m. feeding, I sat in the rocking chair my father had kept by the window. The streetlights painted gold lines across the floor. I thought of my marriage, not the big betrayals, the small rehearsals, Ethan correcting me in front of his mother and calling it a joke, Ethan telling me Vanessa needed emotional support and I needed to be mature, Ethan spending joint money without discussion because he was better with strategy, Ethan saying, you always make everything about fairness. As if fairness were a flaw. Noah stirred against me. I pressed my cheek to his hair. I am sorry I let so much happen before you got here. I whispered. But I promise I am awake now. Outside, a car passed. Inside, my phone lit up with one new email from Ethan. Subject, I miss you, Claire. I know you are angry, but I miss my wife. I miss us. Come home and let me fix this privately before strangers decide our son's future. I looked at the word privately. That was what he wanted. Private meant no witnesses. Private meant no records. Private meant he could make me cry in the kitchen and call it communication. I forwarded the email to Nora without replying. Then I put the phone face down. My son's future would not be decided in the dark. Family court did not look like justice. It looked like beige walls, vending machines, tired parents, fluorescent lights, and lawyers carrying folders thick enough to hold other people's disasters. I arrived with Nora on one side and June on the other. Noah slept in his carrier, wrapped in the blue blanket Vanessa had not chosen. My incisions still hurt if I walked too fast. My milk had leaked through 2 layers that morning. I had cried in the shower because I could not lift my arms long enough to wash my hair properly, but when I entered the courthouse I stood straight, not because I felt strong, because Ethan would be looking for weakness. He was already there, so was Vanessa. She sat beside him in a black dress, hands folded, eyes red but makeup perfect. Marlene sat on his other side, lips pressed together. Tom sat beside Marlene, silent as always. Ethan stood when he saw me. His eyes went first to Noah, then to me. Something like shock crossed his face. I knew what he had expected, a wreck, a trembling postpartum woman with wild hair and accusations, a version of me that could be dismissed. Instead, June had braided my hair. Nora had told me to wear grey because it read calm. I held my folder like a shield and my son like a truth. Ethan stepped toward me. Nora moved half a step forward. That was all. He stopped. Claire, he said, can we talk for 1 minute? No, Nora said, his jaw tightened. I was speaking to my wife. Your wife is represented. Vanessa looked down as if this wounded her personally. Marlene whispered something to Ethan. He sat inside the courtroom. The judge was a woman in her 50s with silver hair and reading glasses. Her name was Judge Halpern. She looked like someone who had heard every version of this is just a misunderstanding and believed almost none of them. Ethan's lawyer spoke first. Your Honor, this is an unfortunate overreaction during an emotional postpartum period. My client, Mr. Bennett, completed hospital paperwork for his son while his wife was recovering. A disagreement arose over the child's name. Mrs. Bennett then left the hospital without notifying him and has denied him access. The words sounded almost harmless when arranged that way. Completed paperwork, disagreement, left without notifying, denied access. I felt heat rise in my face. Nora placed one hand on my folder under the table, a reminder, do not react, let the evidence speak. When she stood, her voice was calm. Your Honor, this is not a simple naming disagreement. This case involves the use of my client's electronic signature while She was recovering from major surgery, the insertion of the father's romantic partner's surname into the child's name, the attempted addition of that same romantic partner to caregiving access information, public posting of the newborn by that third party against the mother's wishes, and evidence that the father purchased baby furniture for the third party's apartment before the child's birth. Judge Halpern looked over her glasses. Is the third party present? Nora turned slightly. Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Vanessa Pierce is seated behind Mr. Bennett. The judge looked at Vanessa. Vanessa immediately looked fragile. It might have worked in another room, not this one. Judge Halpern returned to the papers. Proceed. Nora submitted the hospital medication record, then the signature time, then the disputed worksheet. Then Ethan's text admitting he clicked confirm. Ethan's lawyer objected to the word forged. Nora said, "We can call it an authorized use of electronic signature pending further findings." Judge Halpern said, "The court understands the issue." Then came the message Ethan had meant for Vanessa: "By tomorrow, his name will prove I chose you." The judge read it. The room became very still. Marlene shifted in her seat. Vanessa's face went pale. Ethan stared down at the table. Judge Halpern asked, "Mr. Bennett, did you send this message?" His lawyer touched his arm. Ethan said, "Yes." "To whom did you intend to send it?" He swallowed. "Vanessa, Ms. Pierce." "Yes, and Ms. Pierce is the person whose surname appeared as the child's middle name." "Yes." The judge paused. There are silences that punish harder than shouting. This was one of them. Nora then submitted Vanessa's social media post. "Sometimes love gives you a piece of the life you thought you lost." Judge Halpern read the caption aloud. I stared at the table. Hearing those words in court made them uglier. Ethan's lawyer argued that Vanessa had acted emotionally and removed the post quickly. Nora said, "After my client preserved it." Then Nora submitted the baby furniture receipts. Judge Halpern looked up. "Mr. Bennett, why was baby furniture purchased for Ms. Pierce's apartment?" Ethan's lawyer stood. "Your Honor, my client intended for Ms. Pierce to assist occasionally." The judge asked, "Was Mrs. Bennett aware of that arrangement?" Ethan said nothing. His lawyer said, "There may have been incomplete communication." Judge Halpern's mouth tightened. "That is one way to describe it. For the first time since arriving, I almost smiled when the judge ruled I kept one hand on Noah's carrier. Given the evidence presented, temporary physical custody shall remain with Mrs. Bennett. Mr. Bennett shall have supervised visitation twice weekly at an approved center pending further order. The child shall remain registered in all current medical and temporary legal filings as Noah James Walker pending final determination of the birth certificate. Ms. Pierce shall have no contact with the child. Neither party nor any third party shall post photographs or identifying information regarding the child. Communication between the parents shall occur through counsel or a court-approved parenting application." My lungs opened, not fully but enough. Ethan turned toward me. "Claire." Judge Halpern looked at him. "Mr. Bennett, not now. Not now." The phrase struck me with bitter symmetry. He had used those words when I asked why Vanessa was in my hospital room. Now a judge used them when he tried to reach for me outside the courtroom. Vanessa broke first. "This is unfair," she whispered to Ethan. "I did not do anything to deserve being treated like I am dangerous." I stopped walking. Nora glanced at me but did not stop me. I turned. Vanessa stood with Marlene's arm around her. Her eyes were wet. Her black dress made her look like a widow at a funeral for someone else's marriage. "You posted my newborn son online and called him a piece of the life you lost," I said. "If you do not understand why that frightens me, then the order is exactly where it belongs." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Ethan stepped forward. "Claire, please." I looked at him. "You did not make a mistake," I said. "You made a plan." His face crumpled a little. "That might have hurt me once. Now I only noticed it. And it failed." I added, "Then I walked out with my son. I should not have gone to the Bennett family dinner. Nora told me I did not have to. June told me it was a trap. My body told me to stay home, take pain medication, and sleep for 90 consecutive years. But Marlene left a voicemail that changed my mind." "Claire," she said, her voice tight with injured dignity, "this has gone far enough. Ethan is humiliated, Tom is devastated, Rachel is confused, Vanessa is being punished for caring too much. If you have any decency left, you will come to dinner Sunday and speak to us face to face. Do not bring the baby if you are going to use him as a weapon. Come alone and prove you are not afraid of the truth." I played the voicemail twice. June said, "Absolutely not." Nora said, "Legally you do not need to attend. Personally if you go record where lawful, bring documents, do not eat or drink anything you do not open yourself, and leave the moment they escalate. June stared at her. That was not a no. Nora looked at me. Claire is allowed to decide how much truth she wants to deliver in person. I wanted to deliver all of it. Not because I needed their approval, because the Bennett family had built a version of me in my absence. Unstable Claire, jealous Claire, cruel Claire, the woman who stole a baby from his father because she could not tolerate another woman's sadness. I could live without their love. I refused to live inside their lie. So I went alone with a folder. The Bennett house looked exactly as it always had. White columns, polished brass door knocker, perfect lawn, seasonal wreath. The kind of house that trained people to trust appearances and punish anything messy enough to be true. Ethan opened the door. He looked tired, his shirt was wrinkled, his eyes moved over my face with a hunger I did not like. You came, he said. I said. I would. I did not think you would. I know you have made a habit of underestimating me. He flinched. Good. Inside, the dining table was set for 8. Marlene sat at one end, stiff as a queen. Tom sat beside her, silent. Rachel stood near the fireplace, arms folded, looking uncomfortable. And Vanessa sat beside Ethan's empty chair. Of course she did. She wore a soft blue sweater, no jewelry, minimal makeup. The performance had changed from grieving widow to humble penitent. Marlene stood. Thank you for coming. I am not staying long. That depends on whether you can listen. No, I said, it depends on whether you can tell the truth. Rachel looked down quickly. Ethan pulled out a chair. Claire, please sit. I sat across from Vanessa. No one touched the food. Marlene folded her hands. We need to end this ugliness. I agree. For one foolish second, relief flickered over her face, so I opened my folder. That is why I filed for divorce. Ethan went completely still. Marlene's hand hit the table. You will not. I already did. I slid a copy of the filing across the table. Ethan did not touch it. You filed without talking to me, he asked. I looked at him. You renamed our son without talking to me. That is different. Yes, I said. Mine was legal. Rachel made a small sound under her breath. Marlene pointed at me. You are tearing apart this family. No, I am leaving the place where my consent was treated as decorative. Vanessa spoke for the first time. Claire, I never wanted your marriage to end. I turned to her. Then why did you accept a nursery? Her face drained. Marlene frowned. What nursery? I took out the receipts and placed them one by one on the table. White crib, cream glider chair, changing table, baby monitor, delivery address, Vanessa Pierce. Tom leaned forward. What is this? He asked Ethan. Ethan rubbed his face. It was not a nursery. Rachel picked up the furniture receipt. It says crib. It was just in case Vanessa helped. Helped with whose baby? Rachel asked. No one answered. I placed the social media post beside the receipts. Vanessa holding Noah. The caption. Sometimes love gives you a piece of the life you thought you lost. Marlene's face shifted. It was subtle, but I saw it for the first time. The story did not look the same from her side. Vanessa began to cry. I was grieving. I looked at her. You were shopping. Ethan said my name like a warning. I ignored him. I pulled out the text messages. Vanessa, I just want one part of him that feels connected to me. Ethan, you will have more than one part, I promise. I placed them in front of Tom. His hand shook when he picked them up. Ethan, he said quietly, what the hell did you do? Marlene snatched the paper, read it, and turned pale. Vanessa whispered, I was in pain. So was I said, but I did not try to take someone else's child. She sobbed harder. The old me would have felt cruel. The new me recognized strategy. Ethan stood. Enough, you came here to humiliate us. No, I came here because your mother asked me to prove I was not afraid of the truth. I looked at Marlene. So here it is. I placed the final document on the table, the hospital signature log, the medication record, the disputed electronic signature. Tom read slowly, then he looked at his son. Did you sign her name? Ethan's mouth opened. Marlene said, Tom, this is not that simple. Tom did not look at her. Did you sign her name while she was recovering from surgery? Ethan whispered. I clicked confirm. Rachel covered her mouth. Tom closed his eyes. Marlene sat back as if the chair had moved beneath her. There it was, the sentence that stripped away every excuse. I clicked confirm. Not I misunderstood, not Claire agreed, not the hospital made an error. I clicked confirm. Ethan looked at me. I did not think you would leave. The room went quiet. That was the confession beneath the confession. He had believed I would stay. Not because he thought I was loved well, because he thought I was trained. I gathered my papers. Vanessa wiped her face. Claire, please, I know I crossed lines, but Ethan told me you did not even want him in the pregnancy. He said he felt alone. I looked at Ethan. He stared at the floor. I nodded once. Thank you. I said. Vanessa blinked. For what? For proving he lied to both of us. Her face crumpled. But this time I did not stay to study it. Ethan followed me to the foyer. Claire, wait. I kept walking. He reached for my arm. I turned so sharply he stopped before touching me. Do not. His hand dropped. I can fix this, he said. No, you do not mean that. I filed for divorce. I corrected our son's name. I removed your mistress from his access records. I am standing in your parents' hallway with a folder full of evidence. What part sounds uncertain? His eyes filled. I love you. For a moment memory tried to rise. Our first apartment, his laugh in the kitchen, his hand on my back when we crossed streets, the maple tree where he proposed. Then I remembered the hospital room. Memory can knock, it does not have to enter. You loved having me available, I said. That is not the same thing. I opened the front door behind me. Tom's voice came from the dining room. Let her go, Ethan. For once, someone in that house said the right thing, so I left. Ethan refused the divorce papers 3 times. The first time, he told Nora he would not participate in Claire's emotional breakdown. The second time, he mailed them back unopened. The third time, he wrote across the envelope in black marker, I want my family back. Nora photographed the envelope before filing proof of service. He thinks marriage is a locked room, she said. He does not understand that you found the door. I sat across from her with Noah asleep against my chest. He was 5 weeks old, his face had softened, he had started making small sounds that June insisted were thoughtful comments. He liked being held upright and hated being put down. The second I thought my arms might fall off. I was tired in a way I had never known a person could be tired, but I was not confused anymore. That was a kind of rest. Mediation was scheduled for a Tuesday morning. Ethan arrived with his lawyer and no Vanessa. I noticed, so did Nora. He wore a navy suit and looked freshly shaved for the first time since court. He had brought a folder, though I doubted he had read what was inside. His eyes went straight to Noah's carrier. How is he asked. Nora answered before I could. The child is well. Ethan looked at me. Can you not speak to me like a person? I met his eyes. I did for years. The mediator, a woman named Ms. Klein, began with rules. We were there to discuss temporary and potential final agreements regarding property, custody, child support, communication, and the child's name. Ethan interrupted at the name. His name is Mason. The room went still. Nora slowly turned one page in her folder. Ms. Klein looked at him. The temporary order identifies the child as Noah James Walker pending final determination. Ethan's lawyer leaned toward him and whispered something. Ethan stared at the table. Fine. The word did not sound like agreement, it sounded like a man swallowing glass. We moved to custody. Ethan wanted unsupervised visitation. Nora said no. Ethan wanted joint decision-making. Nora said not until the court reviewed the signature issue. Ethan wanted Vanessa removed from the discussion because, in his words, she is no longer relevant. I looked up. Are you still in contact with her? He hesitated. That was the answer. Nora slid a printed email across the table. It was from Vanessa to Ethan, forwarded anonymously to me 2 days earlier from an account I did not recognize. Nora suspected Vanessa herself had sent it because she was angry Ethan had begun calling her a liability. Ethan, you promised I would not lose him completely. You said Claire would calm down and we could still be part of his life. You told me Mason was the closest I would ever get to motherhood. Do not act like I invented this alone. The mediator read it. Ethan's lawyer closed his eyes briefly. I watched Ethan. He did not deny it. Instead he said, she was upset. I almost laughed. She was upset, so you gave her my son's name. His face tightened. I did not give her your son. No, you tried to give her pieces, a name, a nursery, access, photos, enough pieces to make her feel like she had a place. Ms. Klein looked from me to Ethan. Mr. Bennett, is Ms. Pierce still involved in your personal life? He looked at his hands. Not the way she was. Nora said. That is not an answer. Ethan snapped. What do you want me to say? That I made a mess? I did, I know. I leaned back finally, not an apology yet, but a crack in the performance. Ms. Klein asked if reconciliation counseling had been considered. Ethan looked at me with hope. No, I said. The word had become easy. He leaned forward. Claire, we have a newborn. We should not make permanent decisions in the middle of pain. You made permanent decisions while I was under anesthesia. I said I am sorry. No, you said you made a mess. That is not the same. He swallowed. I am sorry. For what? He looked frustrated. For all of it. I shook my head. No, pick one. What? Pick one thing and say it plainly. His lawyer shifted. Nora said nothing. Ms. Klein watched. Ethan looked trapped, which told me he had expected apology to work like a blanket. throw it over everything and hide the shape. I waited. Finally he said, "I am sorry I signed the hospital form, without my consent," I said. His jaw tightened. "Without your consent?" And he looked at the mediator as if asking for rescue. She gave him none. "I am sorry I used Vanessa's last name, as our son's middle name, as our son's middle name, and," his voice dropped, "I am sorry she held him when you did not want her to." And he closed his eyes. "I am sorry I made plans for her to help with him." I looked at him. There it was, help with him. The phrase still made me sick, but at least it had entered the room. "Why?" I asked. He opened his eyes. "Why did you do it?" He rubbed his forehead. "Vanessa needed me. Your wife needed you. You were always strong." I was cut open. He flinched. I leaned forward. "You keep saying Vanessa needed you as if that explains why you betrayed me. It only explains what you liked about it. She needed you in a way that made you feel generous. I needed you in a way that required responsibility." No one spoke. Ethan's face changed. I knew that look. It was the face of a man who had finally heard the truth in a language he could not dismiss. The mediation did not resolve everything, it rarely does, but we left with written interim agreements. Ethan would continue supervised visitation. Vanessa would remain barred from contact, all parenting communication through the app, financial disclosures due in 10 days, the name issue reserved for hearing. As we packed up, Ethan said quietly, "I ended it with Vanessa." I looked at him. "She is not part of my life now, because you understood it was wrong." He hesitated. I smiled sadly. "No," I said, "because it started costing you." He had no answer. That evening I received an email from Vanessa, subject, "You should know Claire, I am not asking forgiveness." Ethan told me things that were not true. He told me you were planning to leave after the baby. He told me you did not care what the baby was named. He told me giving the baby Pierce as a middle name was a private way to honor what he and I lost. I wanted to believe him because I wanted to matter. "I know that does not excuse me. I should never have held your son, Vanessa." I read it while Noah slept beside me. There was a time when I would have replied. I would have offered some careful sentence, something mature and devastatingly generous. I did not. Vanessa's guilt was not another baby for me to hold. I forwarded the email to Nora, then I closed my laptop. The final name hearing happened on a rainy Thursday morning. Noah was 7 weeks old. He had grown into his cheeks. His hair had darkened. He made solemn faces in his sleep and startled whenever June sneezed. He had begun to know my voice, or maybe I only needed to believe that because every time I said his name, he settled. Noah, not Mason, Noah James Walker. I dressed him in a white onacy and a green cardigan June had knitted badly and proudly. One sleeve was slightly longer than the other. "It gives him character," she said. "He is 7 weeks old." "Exactly, start early." I laughed. It startled me. Laughter had begun returning in small, strange bursts, never when expected, sometimes while sterilizing bottles, sometimes when June insulted Ethan under her breath with shocking creativity, sometimes when Noah made a face exactly like my father's old skeptical look. Healing did not arrive like sunrise. It came like a light flickering in a hallway you thought had no electricity. At court, Ethan arrived alone. No Marlene, no Tom, no Vanessa, just him, his lawyer, and a face that looked like sleep had become difficult. He saw Noah and stopped. For 1 second something unguarded crossed his face. Love, maybe, or loss. The two can look similar when both arrive too late. "How is Mason?" he asked. Nora's head turned slowly. Ethan realized what he had said. I looked at him and answered, "Noah is fine." The court clerk heard it, so did his lawyer, so did the judge when Nora mentioned it 10 minutes later as part of a pattern of refusal to honor the temporary name. Ethan looked humiliated. I felt nothing. That was new. Once his embarrassment would have made me rush to soften the room. I would have protected him from consequences, even consequences he created. Now I let the silence do its work. Judge Halpern reviewed the evidence again. This hearing was narrower than the first. The court was not finalizing the entire divorce. It was deciding the birth record issue and confirming interim custody boundaries. Nora began with the agreed name. She submitted Ethan's email. "Noah James Walker Bennett works for me. Your dad would have loved it." The judge read it. Then Nora submitted my statement from the hospital, the medication record, the signature log, the text to Vanessa, the baby furniture receipts, Vanessa's email, Ethan's continued use of Mason in messages. After the temporary order, Ethan's lawyer tried to argue for compromise. "Your Honor, Mr. Bennett acknowledges mistakes were made. However, removing Bennett entirely from the child's legal name may create unnecessary alienation. He proposes Noah Mason Bennett or Noah James Bennett." Nora stood The original compromise was Walker Bennett. Mr. Bennett destroyed that compromise when he used an unauthorized signature to remove my client's chosen name and insert MS, Pierce's surname. My client is not required to preserve the appearance of shared trust after that trust was used against her. Judge Halpern asked Ethan directly, "Why was Pierce chosen?" Ethan's hands tightened, his lawyer leaned close, but the judge said, "I am asking Mr. Bennett." Ethan looked at me, then at the judge. "It meant something to someone I cared about," he said. "And that person was not the child's mother." "No." "Did the child's mother consent?" "No." "Did you submit the name while she was recovering from surgery?" "Yes." "Did you use her electronic signature?" He swallowed. "Yes." "The word entered the record?" "Yes." "Not clicked confirm, not handled paperwork?" "Yes." I closed my eyes for 1 second. Nora's hand brushed the edge of my folder, a quiet reminder to breathe. Judge Halpern ruled after a short recess. The court finds that the disputed name worksheet was submitted under circumstances that do not support valid maternal consent. The evidence further shows that the inclusion of Pierce was directly connected to a third party with no parental rights, and that the father understood the symbolic meaning of that inclusion. The court orders the birth record completed as Noah James Walker. Noah made a tiny sound. I looked down at him. His eyes were open, dark, and unfocused, staring at nothing. "You heard that?" I whispered. Nora's mouth curved slightly. Judge Halpern continued, "Temporary primary physical custody shall remain with MS. Walker. Mr. Bennett shall continue supervised visitation for 90 days, subject to review. He shall complete a parenting course and comply with all restrictions regarding third-party contact. MS. Pierce shall have no contact with the child. All communication shall remain through the parenting application." The gavel did not bang. Real courtrooms are less theatrical than people imagine, but inside me, something ended with the force of a door closing outside the courtroom. Ethan approached slowly. Nora stayed close but did not block him when I gave a small nod. He stopped a few feet away. "I know you do not owe me a conversation," he said. "No." He took the word like a hit. I ended everything with, "Vanessa, so you said, this time it is true, that matters for Noah, not for us." His eyes reddened. "Claire, I was lost." I looked at him. "I was scared," he said. "The baby was coming, you were different, everything was changing. Vanessa made me feel like I was still someone." I waited until he finished, then I said, "I needed you when I was changing." He looked down. "I needed you when my body stopped feeling like mine. I needed you when I was scared of surgery. I needed you when I was mourning my father because he would never meet his grandson. I needed you to stand beside me when our son was born." My voice stayed steady. "You were needed, Ethan, you just did not like the kind of needed that required you to give instead of receive." His mouth trembled. "I am sorry." I believed him. That surprised me. I believed he was sorry. I believed he had woken up to the wreckage and wished he could rewind his hand before it touched the hospital tablet. I believed he missed me. I believed he missed the version of our home where dinner appeared, bills got paid, and I turned his carelessness into something survivable. But belief is not the same as return. "I hope you become a better father," I said. "Noah deserves that." "And you?" he asked. "I deserved that before he was born." He covered his face with one hand. I shifted Noah's carrier. Ethan lowered his hand. "Does he look like me?" The question was so small it almost hurt. I looked at my son, his tiny mouth, his serious brow, his long fingers. "He looks like himself," I said. Then I walked away. 3 months after Noah's birth, Ethan signed the final divorce agreement. Not because he became noble, because evidence is expensive. His lawyer had advised settlement after the hospital confirmed the signature dispute in writing. Vanessa's email became discoverable, and the financial records showed he had used joint funds to prepare her apartment for access to our child. Marlene did not attend the final settlement conference. Tom sent a note through Rachel. "Claire, I am sorry I stayed silent too long. Noah is lucky to have you." I read it twice, then I put it in a drawer. Not every apology needs a reply. Some are only proof that the truth landed somewhere. The joint house was sold. I went there once with June to collect what mattered: Noah's green curtains, the framed animal prints, my books, my father's old toolbox, the rocking chair in the nursery. The wall still had the painted wooden letters Ethan and I had bought before everything broke. Noah. He had helped me hang them one Sunday afternoon. We had argued over whether the H was crooked. He had kissed my shoulder and said, "Our son is going to know he was wanted." I stood in that room for a long time. June waited in the doorway. "You okay?" "No." "Do you want to leave the letters?" I touched the N. "No," I said, "they are his." We took them. The house sold within a month to a couple with 2 dogs and no idea what had happened in the upstairs nursery. I hoped they filled it with ordinary noise. Vanessa moved to Portland. At least that was what Rachel heard from someone who heard from someone else. She deleted most of her social media, then returned with vague posts about healing, betrayal and choosing herself. I wished her exactly what the court ordered: distance. Marlene sent one letter. It began with "as a grandmother" and ended with "you will regret breaking this family." Between those lines she mentioned tradition, forgiveness, Ethan's pain, Vanessa's fragility, and the cruelty of denying a baby his heritage. She did not mention my signature, she did not mention the hospital room, she did not mention Noah's name. I gave the letter to Nora. Nora read it and said, "Do you want to respond?" "No." "Good." Rachel became the only Bennett I allowed near the edges of our life. Not immediately, not fully, but after months of quiet consistency she earned short visits at the park. She always called him Noah. She never brought her mother. She never defended Ethan. One afternoon while pushing Noah's stroller beside me she said, "I am sorry I believed Mom at first. I watched the path ahead." "Why did you?" She sighed. "Because it was easier." That answer was honest enough to forgive eventually. Ethan's supervised visits began at a family visitation center with beige carpet, plastic toys, and rules taped to the wall. The first day, I carried Noah inside and saw Ethan sitting at a small table. He stood immediately. He looked thinner, older, not destroyed exactly, just reduced to the size of his choices. The supervisor, a woman named Carla, greeted us. "Mr. Bennett, please sign in as visiting parent." Visiting parent. The phrase passed through the room. Ethan's hand paused over the pen. Once he had believed fatherhood began with declaration. A name on a card, a surname chosen without consent, a woman invited without permission, a family expected to comply. Now fatherhood began with a clipboard. He signed. Carla reviewed the rules. No photos, no discussing court matters, no asking me personal questions, no unauthorized gifts, no third-party messages, no calling the child by any name other than Noah. At that one, Ethan looked at me. I looked back. He nodded. Carla placed Noah in his arms after checking his position. Ethan held him awkwardly at first, too stiff, too high. Carla corrected him gently. "Support his head, slower bounce." Ethan obeyed. The old me would have helped him. The old me would have said, "Here, like this," and stepped close enough for him to smell my hair, close enough for our hands to touch, close enough for memory to pretend it was still alive. I stayed seated. Noah fussed. Ethan panicked. Carla coached him. He learned that was his work now, not mine. After 20 minutes Noah settled. Ethan looked down at him and whispered something I could not hear. Then I heard the name. Noah. Quiet, careful, correct. I looked out the window. The sky was bright blue. Nothing dramatic happened. No music, no final collapse, no public applause. Just a man in a supervised visitation center finally saying the name he should have protected. From the start, when the visit ended, Carla took Noah and brought him to me. Ethan stood. "Claire." Carla remained close. I turned. "I know I do not have the right to ask," he said, "but do you ever think about who we were before all this?" I adjusted Noah's blanket. "Yes." Hope moved across his face. I let it live for only a second. Then I remember she was exhausted from explaining pain to a man who only respected consequences. His eyes filled. "I am trying," he said. "Good, try for Noah. And for you." "No." The word was not sharp. That made it final. He nodded slowly. For the first time, Ethan Bennett did not argue with my boundary outside. June waited by the car with coffee and a look that said she would commit several felonies if needed. "How did it go?" she asked. "He called him Noah." June exhaled. "Good." I buckled my son into his car seat. He blinked up at me, serious and calm, one fist waving like he had something important to announce. "Ready to go home, Noah James?" He made a tiny sound. I closed the car door gently. As June drove, I watched the visitation center shrink. Behind us, that building would be part of Ethan's life now. Sign-in sheets, scheduled hours, rules taped to doors, a supervisor sitting nearby. Not forever, maybe, if he became steady, if he respected boundaries, if he learned that being a father meant serving a child, not using one to heal his pride. But my marriage was not under review. That case was closed. At home, I hung the wooden letters above Noah's crib in my father's apartment. Noah. The H was still a little crooked. I left it that way that night. After feeding him, I stood by the window with Noah against my shoulder. The city hummed below. Somewhere, Ethan was probably alone with his regrets. Somewhere, Vanessa was rewriting herself into a victim. Somewhere, Marlene was telling a version of the story where I had been cruel. Let them I no longer lived in rooms where other people's stories replaced my own. Noah sighed in his sleep. I pressed my lips to his hair. His name belonged to him, my life belonged to me. Ethan had wanted to prove he could choose another woman with my child's name. By morning I had chosen my son. By law, I had restored him. By leaving, I had restored myself and Ethan Bennett, who once believed I would forgive anything to keep a family together, finally learned the cost of making a wife feel like a stranger. She might take the child in her arms, she might walk out before sunrise, she might put every lie into a folder, she might stand in court and let the truth speak, and when he finally looked for the woman who used to soften every consequence, he might find only a closed door, a corrected birth certificate, and a son whose name no longer carried his betrayal.